Alright, we are recording, and first things first, NGC 6530 on the left side, and on the right side in the book cover is NGC 3324. Both are Hubble images. The link to NGC 6530 is in the description, not 3324, but you can just look it up, and it's in other videos too. The link. Anyway, space station aesthetics, which for that I'm going to be reading a paragraph out of the book here in chapter 2 for anyone wondering, so anyone actually reads this book. Another reason I like this station so much is its aesthetic choices. Of course, each person has their own tastes, but I prefer this more minimalist, as I cannot think of a better word, style. As every aspect of the station's interior and exterior has been designed, minimalist is hardly applicable, but it makes sense here as so much is kept subtle. This atrium's park appears to be completely natural, while in other stations the park, if there is one, can sometimes be an attempted recreation of every natural biome. There are forests and plains with waterfalls and rivers, all scaled to fit within a station, of course. But there will also be deserts, tundra, and mesas, all crushed together. I guess it can be nice to have so many different regions recreated within walking distance, but it is obvious and fails at feeling natural, just like those stations where the park is just a floor with grass growing on it. Then there are the stations that feel more sterile than operating theaters, with everything being polished metal all welded into one piece. Of course, the stations where every surface is made to resemble some kind of wood or other natural material feel creepy. Sometimes it is actual wood and other times it is a veneer, but it's still creepy to feel like you're inside some kind of massive space tree. The weirdest part is when you look out at the stars, nebulae, and Milky Way with a wood border. At least for me, I do not think of a picture frame, but of how porous and weak wood is compared to metal and concrete. So it's aesthetics. Because, and I guess I should explain a little bit, the atrium for space stations in the Catherineverse, at least space stations like this, because there are a few different styles of a space station discussed in the book. It's like the hub. Not only figuratively speaking, a hub where everything else kind of connects out of that. So it would be like the literal public square of a town. So it's like this is the center. Everything would come there, and that's in the olden days of like the 50s and 60s. Like if there were a band concert, like that's where the bandstand is, because that's where everyone can then come and congregate to. But yeah, and it's just the idea here that you would, for these space stations, because they're meant to be entire communities. It's not meant, this is not just a utilitarian space station. And there are some that are talked about in the book, much near the end, where it is like it would be all polished metal and such, but it's like no one stays there for long. It's that they are words out of my head. But there are stops on your journey. These are the space stations that orbit the Earth, and it's like people go to that. You take a shuttle there, and then you take a shuttle from that out to wherever you're going. So you're only ever there for like a few hours at most. So you don't need that kind of aesthetic. They can be kind of like the inside of an airport, essentially. So because that's all it serves as. It's a terminal. That may be a better word to use for them. But I don't know why I'm getting so tongue-tied today, but I am. But this one, it's like, no, you have people living on this and working on this, and people are natural things, but a space station by its nature is unnatural. And it's because we are natural creatures, we do have an innate desire for nature as well. So being like in this room with painted wood walls, a fan going instead of a breeze, 2 windows that are really too small for this room, letting in a little bit of sunlight at the moment, it's, it's nice to have the sunlight, but this is not exactly natural. But, say I can just go downstairs. I can look out of these windows, although these windows don't show much anyway, but I could walk downstairs, look out of a window and see more of nature. Or I can walk outside. I know it's a weird concept, but I can't do that. But we have that desire, and I do believe it is an innate desire, and not just for being in nature, because we are natural creatures, as I said, but also for the innate beauty of nature. And this, I have in my notes, it's not just, there are other words you can use for it as well. Besides just nature, there's also, I'm going to click here, existence, creation, and the universe. Just that there can be a beauty to things simply because they exist. Um, and it's like, those are different words you can use there. And these nebulae are both like that, where there is a beauty to them because they are there. Um, and also in some ways because they're somewhat unfathomable. I mean, there's you might be able to simulate some of this stuff, like in a computer, or find a painter that can, be inspired by it and do it. But it's still, any recreation we attempt would be an impersonation, not a true recreation, uh, not the real thing, not the real McCoy kind of stuff. So, yeah, and now my train of thought has just derailed a little bit. Sorry about that. But it is, I do believe that there is also that innate desire for that kind of beauty. And you would need to recreate that on a space station, especially one like the one he's talking about that is in dark space. So it's so far away from everything that there's no dominant source of starlight, as is my definition of dark space. So you would really need that. That's kind of it. No, I know I got more. It's just, again, my train of thought got derailed. I guess this is one thing that I have seen, in other pieces of science fiction that I'm just motioning over here because this is the way a lot of it is, for my media collection. I don't think a lot of them have that right. But the funny thing is, I didn't even think about, what's right, what's wrong. It's more of a just, this is supposed to be a living community. You're going to have that there. It's not like, oh, I'm just working here, so it can be the very sterile walls. But even then, how many sterile walls are there? Even in a mass of cubicles, you still have within cubicles, people can have pictures of little doodads such that bring some of that beauty that they desire into where they are. And there will also be windows on a lot of these buildings and things put up on the wall, paintings up on the wall, things like that. So you do have that desire. And it's hopefully something that people won't forget about, won't be lost when we get to the point of having these grand space stations. It's like, true, a lot of the space stations that have been built, like the International Space Station and its predecessors, I'm not sure if they necessarily have much that isn't just the utilitarian aesthetic, but it still is. They can look out a window and see a view of Earth that only they can have, and they still also have sunlight. Because, I mean, that is one thing as well with the whole how we are natural creatures. Our bodies expect sunlight, and it's fascinating. I saw one thing, this was years ago, that they found it's actually possible to, with a portion of sunlight, help somebody having a heart attack. I'm completely serious. I know it was some sort of cardiovascular event, but I think it was a heart attack. That because if you would have flashed the right color light into their eyes, it trips their body into a certain part of the circadian rhythm. It was something like that, and that will actually help them with dealing with their natural responses to that heart attack. It was wild, but it's like, this is a real thing. And also the whole, it's like we are supposed to wake up to sunlight. The idea of waking up to artificial light, or just not having sunlight in our lives, that is an unnatural thing, and it does mess with our bodies. So yes, you would want to have on a space station where people are living years at a time, potentially their whole lives, you're going to need that. And it is, some people, they just put grass on floors. Very basic. Some are going to try to bring the whole world there, but we kind of have, well, at least Roman does, he grew up on Earth. He has a sense that this isn't right. So finding the right aesthetic can be tricky, but there is always that desire there. And one other thing I will add, because it was part of my inspiration for some of this, some of the comments there, is where I live is really nice, in that we actually have some raw land here. It's like there's parks that are reserved, they are nature reserves. So it's like, I can ride a bike there. I'm not sure how much I'd want to walk there. They're a little far for that. But I could ride a bike there and see, this land that hasn't really been touched except for the places that, they put down walking paths, car paths, and also some fields that they flattened so that they can have like soccer fields and such there. Which are, serving a nice purpose and, do benefit the community. But it's still, a lot of it is just, no, that's where the river is there because that's where it runs. The trees are here because that's where the seeds fell, kind of stuff. And you compare that to something like Central Park, which is completely artificial. Like, look into the history of that. It's actually kind of a dark history in certain ways. But dude had an idea. They eventually bought up that land there, leveled the houses that were there because people were living there. That's why I said it was kind of dark. Leveled all that, and then made this completely artificial location. But for some people, that's what nature is. Like in New York, that's what they might know as for nature, but it's all artificial there. And while yes, it is artificial on a space station, because it is still needed, there's that part of me, and it does come out in other ways in the book, because of how, starting with, need to check the chapters 5 or 6, somewhere in there, when Roman is back to being able to pilot the ship, the Nancy Grace, if you were to buy the book, it's a section name of the Nancy Grace, that's why he's on the ship. Well, that's why, he's on the ship. But, his joy at being able to, look out at the universe again, and he's going through it himself. He's in, some of it is his control. He's the pilot, but that he can just look around and enjoy. And it's also like why he's right there in the cover. It's like that's him lying back on his ship because he's had to stop the ship for some repairs. But he's just lying back and taking in the universe and enjoying it all. And that, that there is that desire there, and he definitely has it and is able to satisfy that. This desire for nature, this important desire for such aesthetics. Because, guess what? They do matter. You might think they don't, but they do. They really do. So some more brutalist designs are not necessarily what humans desire, humans want. But in some cases, it's all we get. So in that case, see if you can get pictures of stuff like that to put up around you. It'll help. All right. One thing I do want to mention, because I was trying to run out of ideas for videos out of my science fiction to talk about. I got like one more, I think. Maybe I'll come up with some others. So just what I'm thinking will end up happening in the future is when I get the real science news that I think is interesting and want to talk about, I will do so. But I also do have a plan for something I can do that it'll be fun. Well, at least to me, I think it'll be fun. But there's something I have to finish before I get to that. So there might be some weeks coming up where there aren't videos. I'm not sure how much people are watching any of these, so it might not matter that much anyway. But there might be some weeks without some until I finish the thing so I can get to that. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be enjoyable and interesting, at least for me. And yeah, hopefully I won't be too unique in that. But see you next time.